If you spend any time online looking at real estate, you've probably seen the fantasy. You buy a trashed house, slap on some gray paint, and the renovation seemingly pays for itself while generating income on autopilot. This is the BRRRR method. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. You force value up, then refinance to pull cash out. But treating this capital-intensive business like a passive portfolio shatters the loop with contractor delays, low appraisals, and evictions. Treating a highly leveraged operational business as a passive investment creates points of failure that most spreadsheet models are designed to ignore. To buy a distressed house that traditional banks won't touch, investors typically use short-term hard money loans. These get you cash fast, but they carry turns that traditional borrowers rarely see. This chart shows how the pitch compares to the practice. Online tutorials often assume a smooth 4-week schedule and a tight $40,000 budget. But if you open up a wall and find structural rot, or if the city takes a month to approve a permit, those 4 weeks stretch to 12, and the budget balloons to $55,000. Because hard money loans carry double-digit interest rates, every single day your project sets delayed, the interest meter is running. That clock drains your final profit margin before you ever list the property for rent. To find properties discounted deeply enough to make the numbers work, you usually have to look in low-income neighborhoods that have seen decades of neglect. This map shows the legacy of systemic disinvestment in these areas, which often translates to compromised infrastructure. You are frequently dealing with ancient plumbing, outdated electrical grids, and serious building code violations. Forcing appreciation requires taking on the physical decay and the systemic liabilities of a distressed property out of your own pocket. The entire BRRRR method hinges on the cash-out refinance. To get your money back, the bank must agree that the property's after-repair value is high enough to justify the new loan. This chart maps the relationship between market interest rates and the subjective opinion of an appraiser. These are the two variables that determine your exit strategy. If the appraiser gives you a high valuation and interest rates stay low, you can successfully extract your initial capital and pay off your short-term debt. But if interest rates spike during your renovation or the appraisal comes in low, the debt service coverage ratio breaks. The bank's refusal to lend leaves you stuck with a short-term loan you cannot afford to keep. Most lenders also require a seasoning window, demanding you own the property and collect rent for 3 to 6 months before they will refinance. This leaves very little room for renovation mistakes or leasing delays. Intentionally over-leveraging a property to recycle your cash removes your equity buffer, leaving you without a defense if the housing market shifts. Even if the refinance works, there is the question of the rental income. Simplistic models often equate gross rent minus the mortgage to pure profit. This graph shows how the net operating income is calculated. That gross rent bar is immediately reduced by vacancies, capital expenditures, routine maintenance, and local taxes. Skipping a property management company doesn't eliminate the cost. It just forces you to pay that percentage with your own time and stress. Managing housing in these neighborhoods carries a high financial and emotional toll. As author Matthew Desmond has documented, dealing with tenant instability and the legal realities of eviction is active, demanding work. These operational costs are a factor even in emerging global markets experiencing rapid infrastructure booms. In high-growth areas, gross yields are immediately compressed by local land rates, service charges in gated communities, and high maintenance reserve costs. In the end, every single rental property demands constant operational oversight and a functional reserve fund for liabilities. Transitioning from the mechanics of the BRRRR method to the reality of the investor requires a cold look at who can actually survive these risks. This flowchart tracks your strategic options based strictly on your liquid capital and your construction experience. Beginners who are drawn in by no money down marketing but lack emergency cash reserves are in the highest risk category for foreclosure. If you lack the funds to leave your own capital trapped in a deal following a low appraisal, you are not financially prepared for the BRRRR strategy. The successful operator is typically someone with deep local contractor networks and enough liquidity to easily survive a failed refinance. Sustainable real estate wealth comes from matching your investment strategy to the actual liquidity in your bank account.